Hello, everyone, and welcome to Echo Code Live. And today is called the Mirrors of Destiny. And, I have my own opinions on that word. So that's why we're going to talk about it today. And of course, in a little bit, I'm going to bring it on my good friend Jason, who we're going to speak directly into a lot of how we can be a part of our world. Oh, I can hear myself talking, which is somewhere in my computer. And I'm going to go find that while we're just starting. On my many open tabs. There we go. I'll close it up. Hopefully that was the only one. It is. Okay, as I'm talking, I don't hear myself now, which is great. So, the Mirrors of Destiny, what we've come to know is that this show is about bringing live all the interpretations we have on how to create your reality. And, there's no label to myself. There's nothing in my world that I claim specifically because I know what that does with programming. But I do title myself for business sake. I'm the architect, of reality and deprogrammer or whatever. I've put a bunch of, labels on it for myself, but it is accurate as to what I can create, but it's not programming I'm going to buy. And so today, the Mirrors of Destiny is quite laughable because the word destiny itself has its own nature. And the definition, when I'm looking at the dictionary, says literally the events that will necessarily happen to a particular person or thing in the future. For example, the statement is she was unable to control her own destiny. And it also says the hidden power believed to control what will happen in the future. Fate. And so I have my own experience around beliefs versus knowing. And I think we're going to go into a bit of that today, understanding how you can activate that within yourself and have this deep knowing that despite what happens in the world, despite what you're seeing on the television, despite what you're seeing on social media or on YouTube or anywhere else, you're going to know who you are, where you're headed, and how that's going to go. Not because fate and the unknown is presenting it to you, because if that feels very victimist, because you're creating it, because you are the architect. So I'm just reflecting you from that perspective. So I'm going to bring up Jason right now so we can begin this super cool conversation into the Mirrors of Destiny. Welcome back, Jason. How's it going?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. We hopped on just for a few minutes beforehand and kind of, you know, spoke about a few things we'd like to talk about. I mean, we're really in the moment with this show and what we talk about because that's how we live our lives, right? It's moment by moment because you change your mind, which changes your programming, which changes your timelines all day long.
Yep,
And so there's a lot to that, right? We can
that's right.
focus and be intentional and we can have the vision in front of us and then keep walking towards it and handle the things that come our way as we're walking so we know where we are. So that being said, yeah, let's talk about the Mirrors of Destiny. Tell me your version of what you think that means because we were laughing before we got on.
Yeah.
I know the Mirrors of Destiny to me indicate that something's going to happen to you. I'm going to say victim. That's what it says to me. The Mirrors of
Yeah.
Destiny. You don't know what's going to happen. You're victimized by your reality, especially and only if you think it's your reality sucks. Like, so, right, if things aren't working, you're like, oh, that's my destiny, I guess. Which to me is quite laughable. So what is well, and we'll talk about how we can change that and see it for what it can be versus what people have bought the programming around what it is.
Yeah.
So what's your interpretation, Jace?
Uh, the thought that immediately came to mind when you mentioned the word dense, I even get it. I even swap it.
Destiny.
Yeah. Is the scene in Back to the Future where Marty McFly's dad is still a teenager and is typical teenage guy. And instead of when he goes up to Marty McFly's future mum and there in 1955, he says, "It's me." Instead of saying, "I'm your destiny," he says, "It's me. I'm your density." Right? Great moment in the
True.
film. Yeah. And the truth is, destiny is like density. It really is. It just locks you in and boxes you in.
Yeah, totally.
It's just heavy, and it's just this load you got to carry. Oh, my destiny. Just you lob it around with you, and really, the truth is, there's nothing more 3D than the idea of destiny. Why? Because it's time bound and it's space bound.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can do, and there's this narrow path, and this is where I'm going to go to, and it's set.
Yeah.
There's no other way that I can go. That's pretty dense.
I would say if you feel like you're locked into what you are looking at, where you think you came from, where you think you're headed based on destiny, well, I guess I'm destined to do X, Y, Z. I guess I'm destined to experience whatever I'm running into. There's so many ways to look at that, and it's so victimization laden, right? It's you looking at your reality as though it's happening to you, and it's really the opposite is actually true. So let's dive into that piece of it. Based on the definition, I mean, the mere definition suggests victim, and it is the definition.
Like, but it also leads so heavily on time.
It does. Well, 3D is time.
Yeah.
Right? It includes time. So, of course, it does. So, let's look at the perspective of when we have programming.
Yeah.
And when there's density and when there's time. What happens when we don't like our pathway? When we're not appreciating, okay, like the things that are happening in my world, this is not the timeline I want to be on. I want to be on a different timeline. Meaning, what I'm experiencing, how do I shift to, well, in 3D view, it would be, well, I don't like what's happening. Either that stinks and you sink in and you stay there. Yeah. Or you think, God, I don't want this. How do I change it? What do I do? And then you lean into the doing space, still in the same pathway. And, maybe you can run up against where you're not actually getting anywhere, in that moment either, because you're still doing something in the same timeline where the thing's not happening. And the other choice is, all right, what program's showing up that if I changed it would shift my timeline so that on the new timeline, that thing that's not happening is happening. And I can experience it from there. What is the frequency program resonance I'm running up against that if I changed it would change my experience, right? So what's your interpretation on it? Thank you. What's your interpretation on that same thing? So we were leaning into what we were going to talk about with astrology.
Yeah. Well, before I even get to the astrology, I remember I said before we came on air, it was this I saw this video pop up this morning from this Irish woman called Katie Clark.
Yeah.
And it was what she was essentially saying, and it reminded me of a lot of things that I'd thought of before, and sometimes I forget. Is that the world around you will lock you in to a way of thinking. You will look at the world and say, oh, my bathroom's falling to pieces, or I haven't got enough money. And that will lock you into what you think you can do at a particular moment.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it isn't necessarily so. And it's very easy to forget. It's very easy to become locked into, I've got X amount in my bank account. I live here. These are my friends. These are the people I surround myself with. This is who I am. And then that ends up defining you.
Right.
Everything else defines you instead of you defining what you want to be and what you want to create for yourself. So it can easily. The truth is, thought comes before anything else. Consciousness is what creates the world around us. It's the fundamental thing.
Right.
Space. Very early on, when we were doing the work that we do together every week, one of the things that came through when we were channeling was that time and space are what you get when you separate consciousness. Consciousness in itself is not 3D. Why? Because space and time are just united in as one. You can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
So when you split them out, that's what destiny is you lock yourself into this X and Y axis, and there you are, boop.
Yeah.
And moving from one part of the grid to another is like, and that goes back to the path that we talked about. How do I get from there to there? Well, if you're in space and time, you may never get there because everything is conspiring to say, stay where you are. Don't think that you can get away from this. Again, it's the fish not
That's the math of
understanding
mirrors.
that
Yeah.
you're surrounded by water all the time, and
Yeah.
yet there's this thing called air. Another an analogy that she uses: if you spend all your time on the 7th floor of a building and it's 20 stories high, but you're spending your time on the 7th floor, there is actually a 14th floor. You just never see it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's
You
a
might not
19th floor,
know it.
and you never see it, and you go, "There's a 19th." I don't believe that. All I've ever known is this 7th floor. There's even a 6th floor below. Yeah, maybe there is, but a floor above this, don't kid me.
Yeah.
Because you've never gone anywhere else, and you've never been anywhere else, and never
Well, and
explored anything else.
to that nature, you can acknowledge that you've heard of it, but just because you've heard of it and not experienced it, you would still respond, "Well, I heard that before, but I don't like I'm not buying it because I've never been there." That is such a great analogy for how we see our third dimensional reality. Because what came through for me was, while you're talking about that exact thing, when you're in the grid, the only thing you is to make moves in the same grid. And the Hall of Mirrors is the third dimensional nature of how you navigate through. And it would be I want to call it a reverse labyrinth, in that you're not peaceful sometimes when you're going through this grid because you're on the hunt for something. You want something else. You're looking to experience something. And so the nature of your moving through the grid becomes fractured. Like you feel like something's missing, something's broken, something's not right, something's not working. And so we've been taught that it's okay to feel that. And so you just get to change something to fix that and then keep going. Like the nature of how we're taught to navigate is still 3D.
Yeah.
And so how often do we actually get to where we want to go based on that very thing? Right? It's probably why a lot of people would give up.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, listen, it's just not happening and I'm just tired of trying. And so, and often that might be the moment that they discover themselves and actually have the experience that they want to, because they've let go of the grips of the 3D that hold them in place.
Well, that's the thing. If you're in a hall of mirrors, the safest thing to do is stare at your feet and just sort of move them about and just move forward a little bit, because you can't trust what you see. And the truth is, you really can't trust what you see. Too much, unless you want to stay exactly where you are, and you're happy staying exactly where. But I don't know many people who are happy staying exactly as they are, really, underneath.
I don't. Even the most successful of them are still not in that space where they want to stay where they are. They still want to get somewhere else. So that appears to be true everywhere we look. At least everywhere I look too. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, or how famous, or how
infamous.
If you're infamous,
non-famous,
anonymous, I suppose is the word we're looking for. It could be anything, because there are tons of rich people who are miserable, but they're stuck within a certain. If you're famous, you're a movie star, you can't leave the hotel without being mobbed by people. Well, you're trapped too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think of the Beatles at the peak of their fame, they couldn't leave the hotel room. They just went on tour, and they go from hotel room to hotel room, and that's all they could do, because the moment they stepped outside, out come the screaming fans, and you're going to get ripped to pieces. So and just stay inside.
How ironic is it that those who want that level, maybe not that level of fame, but the level of
certainly success, but
achievement, and that's what everyone's looking for, and that's where you're headed. And those who already have it are looking to have a simple life. It's quite the opposite, right? They're like, oh man, what I would give just to walk to the park and sit down and
go to the movies or something.
Yeah. So ironic. So that leads us into when we were talking about the astrology and realizing what astrology is 3D, because the physical things, right? I love the way you describe it. Go ahead.
The planets are 3D. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They're very important, and they give us a very In fact, what we were talking about as well is flipping
The ego.
the ego, because what Katie was saying in her videos was that we can create what we want, but the opponent that we have is the ego. It will nail us down to the 3D spot wherever we are and say, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. And if you actually look at the symbol for the sun, which is the ego in an astrological chart, it's a dot surrounded by a circle.
Yeah.
So if you're the dot, you've got these, which way you turn, bump, bump, you come against this circular
Ego.
barrier, which is what the ego is. You can go so far, but go beyond there. Oh, it's like the old days when people warned about the flat Earth, and if you go too far, you're going to go off the edge.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's just the horizon. You just end up going around. Again, like the sun, it's all circular. If there's any flat earthers watching, by the way, you can go around the Earth. I have done it. 1992, I went around the Earth. Right. So, the trick to what we have to do is we can take the astrology, which is the pattern that you're born with, and it does reflect the limitations that you've created for yourself at the moment of your birth.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of it. It gives you a very, very clear picture. And hopefully in the last few weeks we've demonstrated that. Even with a non-human chart, such as the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it still gave us a picture of what was happening in that moment.
Right.
When that crucial moment when he went from being a living 3D being to wherever he is now.
Yeah.
So what I intuited when I was listening to this video was we can go inside anyone's chart, find where the ego is. In my case, it's really easy. It's Pisces. The last two people we've had a Capricorn and a Cancer. So we would look at those charts. You can look at anybody's chart, even if you don't know the specific time and date of your birth. Most people know the date, so we would have something to work with. We could get a general picture of what the ego is.
Yeah.
If we're trying to flip it. And we went through the different signs last week, but I think to flip an individual, you need to have a bit more information. So that's what we're going to do now if you're interested in doing that.
Yes, of course, right? We're going to do stuff live so people can see how unique and interesting it is in order to have these conversations and then flip our perspective on ourselves so that we can utilize the power of shifting programming and to know thyself better. That's my latest, stand. Know thyself and you can't go wrong. And with that, this is a part of it. We're experiencing 3D and there's multidimensional spaces, much like you were saying with the analogy of the elevator and the floor. And we're just going to all along demonstrate how cool it is to be able to see it from a different perspective. And so our thing is eliminating the programming and shifting timelines so that you're having the different experience, because we're not actually taking a program and changing it. We're in the same timeline. We're taking a program and shifting the frequency that we're being, which is indicated by the programming, and moving timelines to where that program never existed. So what we're doing now is identifying the 3D version using astrology, which is using the planets, which are 3D because they're physical, to identify our ego, because our ego is really what keeps us trapped. It is the primary evoker of fear, which is, really is the limitation. The key limitation for a lot of people is not going beyond their fear, to see their fear differently so that they can access something greater for themselves. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go through and let's play in this space.
Let's do it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Well, it's ready to go. I've shared the screen, so you just got to put it up.
Yeah.
There we go.
Gotcha.
Bingo. Well, folks, this is me.
In a chart form.
In the chart form, yep. And I've had a lot of practice working this one because being adopted, I wasn't sure until I was about 21 and actually spoke to my birth mother and got a rough idea when I was born, which was after midday. And I've worked it so that I've got it pretty, I think, within 2-3 minutes of the time I was born. Yeah. This thing called rectification. So I've been rectifying it for over 30 years now. So this is what you come up with 30 years work at it. Anyway, So this is me. Now the key thing, it's really easy to start, is you just look for the ego, which is the sun. And in my case, there it is. You see me pointing to it? As you can see, it's a circle with a dot in the middle. Just as we're explaining, it's a symbolic of the sun, which is in the sky, which of course is the center of all things in the solar system. But in the 3D, your ego is the center of everything in 3D. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah.
That's why in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it says if you want to be united with God, or whatever you want to call it, you kill off the ego. So there we are, dot in the circle. So there's only so far that your ego will let you go before you hit a wall. It says, oh no. And you're in that grid pattern and you can't move. All the mirrors. Who am I? Where am I going? Just keep looking at your feet, it says. Right?
Yeah.
Now, in my case, it's in Pisces, 18 degrees, 51 minutes. Got degrees, minutes, and seconds, just like you do in geometry and on the clock as well. Time and space, kids, right? So that's where it is. So the first thing that we've got to do, Wendy, is you can just look at the energy of that one thing, which is, okay, there's a way of looking at it. That's that moment at the time of my birth, there it is. But also my ego now exists within this moment and in this space. So you can, there's two things that you need to look at. There's an X and a Y axis for this. The X is my ego at the time of birth. The other axis is my ego now. When you put them together, you get the timeline I'm on now related to the inception related to this particular timeline. There you go. So you can key into that and you can look at the frequency of my ego and it will reveal itself to you. Aha.
Interesting. Okay. So what do you want to know about your ego as I'm peering
Let
at
it reveal itself. You just
Okay.
ask it to reveal itself.
What aspect of itself would you like revealed?
You ask it to reveal itself. You have to let it give the game away. You can't say, are you this, are you that? Otherwise it will screw you over.
Yeah. So the aspect of your ego that shows up for you is called safe.
Okay.
Safety.
Yep. Does it want to say more?
No. That's your primary, the primary directive for your ego is to always be and remain safe.
Now I can show you what that aspect is that tells you that.
Oh,
My
okay.
sun here is exactly 60 degrees, just slightly off 60 degrees, from Saturn, which is in Taurus, also at 18 degrees. So pretty much a 60-degree aspect. Very, very tight. Saturn is in Taurus. Saturn is safe in Taurus. It's like, here are the little boundaries. Don't move too much and you'll be all right, son. The irony is I've traveled the world. If I'd stayed exactly where I was in Sydney and never moved, I would have been just fine materially. I'm worse off for having moved around the world. Materially. Within 3D.
Right.
If you would look at logically. I had a job at the tax office when I was 18. If I'd stayed there, nice big thing we got in Australia called superannuation. I would have got a nice big payout at retirement. I probably would have bought a house. I would have had 2 houses instead of 1. And I would have had a big pot of money coming to me at the age of 65. Whoopee, right? I didn't do that. Right. So if you link the two together, does it change the ego at all? Does it reveal anything else?
Not really. That's still the primary directive of it.
Okay.
So just so people know, I'm just looking energetically at it.
That's
right. So seeing the coding and the programming in Jason's field based on his question. I'm just using his field to see what shows up as far as programming goes. And that coding translates to words, and the words are what indicate what Jason's requesting. So we're utilizing the grid itself in order to indicate energetically what his experience is via the ego from this perspective. And then he's showing and demonstrating how what I'm getting is showing up for him. Because the truth is, I can't read an astrological chart to save my life. I really can't. As over the years, like many, many years, Jason's shown me a million times from Sunday, and I still look at it and go, yeah, that's I don't get it. So there's no way I can read it and decipher that. So for him to say what the truth is, he's going to be honest fully about it. And if whatever I'm saying doesn't match up or does, he's going to see what's true for his chart, and anyone who knows how to read charts will be able to align with that. And I have no idea. So that's the truth. So when I'm getting stuff, it's solely on the energetic nature of the question he's asking.
Here's a question for the ego.
Yeah.
Reveal what the Pisces in the ego stands for.
Oh God.
You allow it to reveal itself. Just you look at the energy. You don't.
So you're asked. So ask that again. So it's just data. So you're requesting
what the
data.
Pisces aspect of my ego stands for.
The Pisces aspect of your ego.
Yeah.
It actually. So what it stands for travel. Travel.
All right. What does the conjunction with Mercury in Pisces reveal?
The conjunction with Pisces and Mercury. Stability.
Okay. And the conjunction with the midheaven.
I hope you're remembering all this because it's
I am. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's all noted. We're recording this, remember?
Yes, true. So ask the question again.
The conjunction with the midheaven reveal.
What does it reveal?
Yeah. About the ego.
Stubbornness. You're laughing.
My mum would have agreed with you, yeah. Okay.
Tell me the accuracy of that, because that was like we've never even done that before. Like,
well, the truth is, see, if I'm the fish in the water, I'm not going to know anyway. I'm not. I do recognize all of that.
Yeah.
But I might not necessarily. If I'm in the water, I would go, "Huh, really? I don't think I'm that bad." If I was really stubborn and I didn't realize, I might think, "Oh, that's not true. I'm all right." But I happen to know I'm pretty honest about myself and reflective. But if you might encounter people go, "Oh no, that's not true about me at all." But that could be the ego saying, "How dare you?" And the ego's not. It'll play games. It will play games. Now, the sun is ruled by Jupiter in Sagittarius. Yeah. Again, what does that tell us about my ego?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you to look at ask the ego to reveal itself.
Okay, so ask the specific question again.
The sun is ruled by Jupiter in Sagittarius,
which means nothing to me.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
Good. That's fine. But you just got to look at the frequency. What does that reveal about the ego?
Well, what does that reveal about you? It's the frequency is daring.
So I'm cautious and I'm daring.
That's scary. Talk about a dichotomy in experience.
It's true.
Oh, is it? Oh, even better. Better for me because
sometimes once I've been daring, I swing the other way and go, "Oh God, what was I thinking?" And then when I get so bored when I'm cautious, I go, I'm too locked in. I've got to break out of this, and then I'll be very daring again. So it's like a pendulum swinging from one thing to another with me. I might not necessarily like saying that. In fact, bath energy, I don't like thinking about myself in that way. Now, I'm going to just go to my higher self and think, is there anything else I need to? No. I only need to ask about the direct things connected with my sun in my chart. Those are the direct. There's some indirect things, but they're not directly about the ego. They're about other things, right?
Okay.
So we've got all those different things. Now, I'm going to make it really easy. If we sum all these parts together in terms of a frequency, what does the ego reveal about itself?
if you sum them all together,
Yeah.
that your preference is safety. You prefer safety over all things. So your preference is safety. That's that's what it's telling me anyway. That's the reveal of the frequency.
Now, if we were talking about density / destiny, that would be my destiny if I was just following my ego.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy. And now, does that feel accurate to you? Is that your nature?
The fact that I'm feeling very, very ill in my throat
Ah,
probably means it's true. It also means I don't like it.
yeah. Well, and we also know that that indicates the opportunity for shift, for shifting the frequency of that, of programming around that. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to shift the moment of your birth, but you can shift the timeline in which you
Right.
navigate what those things indicating.
So here's the point that we ask at this juncture. I'm getting this from my higher self. Oh, my ego's trying to hide it from me. Hang on. There is a timeline that I'm aligned with that benefits my ego and what it wants, and we've summarized it now.
Yeah.
What it wants, and then there is a timeline that's a benefit that is more the most optimal for me at this point.
That
You
makes
can see
sense.
those two timelines.
Yeah, of course. You can
Which
see
one am
all
I tuned into right now?
with the first one, the one that's not the most optimal at this point. Go ahead.
What does that say? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. What do I need to say at this point?
Yeah, nothing, because that you're getting that the feeling in your throat, which we know is like out of aligned experience. When there's a lot of energy to move, oftentimes you'll get a physical indication of that. And what we're familiar with is that that used to be the first thing I would get, right? Just to pull out a little like caveat. When I was first doing this work 11 years ago, my indication, and it still happens now actually, when I shift a lot of programming, when it's available for me to shift it, it has this like, I called it an energetic gag reflex, because there
Mm-hmm.
was so much to move, and it all wanted to move at one time. And it's like, it felt like it was an energetic gag, as though the energy wanted to just barf itself out. That's what it felt like.
Yep.
And from that space, then you ended up getting, like, as we worked together, you ended up experiencing the same thing. But I still experience that. And I've worked with people who experience it as well. So it's an interesting physical, visceral representation of an out of aligned energetic pathway or block or timeline that can be changed, which is cool. So what we're indicating, so people can like kind of understand how we function when we do work together. Jason comes from his perspective, I come from mine, and I'm just reading all the way through all the frequencies that are being presented, right? So then we have an opportunity to shift what's in the way, and then we discover more and more things all the time. So what we're doing is utilizing astrology to indicate the 3D nature of the reality that in this case Jason was born into, that will indicate the primary programming via astrology, where that's where you're locked in
Yep.
until you can recognize and acknowledge, and then be an allowance of shifting the pathway. With that still being in play, you're never going to change that indicator of when, where, and what time you were
But what we
born.
can do is invert it.
Yes, absolutely. We can invert it, which, when the ego is at play, you're driven by the ego's and subconscious nature of that programming, whether you know it or not. It's just happening. So what we're doing is we're kind of like pulling back the curtain to show people, hey, look at this. We can look at this. We can see when you were born. We can see what indicates your ego's nature, the ego programming, and then give you a fair opportunity to be like, yeah, that's not working for me. I want to change something. So in my reality, that is the nature of my work, being able to identify programs and shift them, thereby shifting timelines to have a different experience. And so ideally what we're showing here is utilizing the 3D nature of
Yeah.
where the planets were sitting when you were born with your ego, which seems to drive the bus a lot of the times and, kind of hold us back from things. How
Yeah.
we can shift the perspective. And what we've discovered is that we can then invert the ego because we can't change the moment of your birth physically. However, we do have access to the opposite. So both sides of the coin exist at the same time, always.
Right.
Primarily in 3D, that's the way, right? The coin flips or the cookie
Yeah.
crumbles. It just is that way. So we have the opportunity just to flip it. And in this case, for Jason, it's like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. And his indicator, I'm able to see it energetically, but his indicator is that energetic barf feeling that's like, yeah, this is not working for me.
Now,
So
one thing, see, symbolically, you can imagine it with the dot that's inside the circle. Imagine taking the dot and putting it outside the circle.
yeah,
That's an inversion of the ego.
yeah,
Where you've now from the outside looking in rather than the inside looking out.
yeah,
What does it look like when you're outside the hall of mirrors, which is a 5D perspective,
yeah,
right? Now,
yeah.
I'm going to show you something that I've never shown you before. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
There's this thing called antitia, which is
Okay.
like an antithetical thing.
Ooh.
Be good. Yeah. There we go. It looks like a bloody mess, doesn't it? Look at that.
It does.
And what you can see inside is the blue planet there is my original placement of the
Yeah.
sun.
Yeah.
Now, Antitia is this thing where you invert the placement of the planets. So, for example, there's the day signs, which is Aries through to Virgo, and then there's the night signs, which is Libra through to Pisces. So, for example, with my sun in Pisces, it inverts into Libra.
Oh.
So, down here, you'll see the sun again. This time it's in Libra. See it down there?
Yeah. I see it.
Now, this isn't where it actually exists. This is just an inversion
Yeah.
of the ego. If I was to flip my personality, look at my personality in a mirror, this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
Where everything is left to right is now right to left. That's what it would look like. My moon, which was in Leo, there, as a daytime sign, is now all the way back here. So they're not doing the same things. The planets aren't doing. It's a bit like when you look in the mirror. It's not necessarily the equivalent where it would be. It's just, it becomes very much like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And so the moon is up here in Taurus.
Yeah.
So that's an inversion of that. But we don't need to worry about that. I'm channeling part of this. All we need to worry about is the ego, because the moon is not the ego. The moon is what people think you look like. It's not. It's the reflection of your ego. It's not the ego itself.
Right.
That's what people see. If they know you for a while, that'd be your public persona as opposed to the mask that you wear, which is your ascendant. So my ascendant, for example, its inversion is in Cancer. There it is.
Yeah.
Over here. My my Venus in Aquarius has now moved to Scorpio over here. So they're inverted. My Mars has only moved about 3 degrees.
So it's not opposite. It's just inverted.
It's inverted.
Which is different.
So the closer you are to the center, the less far it moves. The wider it is, the further it moves.
Right.
So if you're in the center there and your nose is in the center, your nostrils only flip a little bit. But if the picture is on this side, it'll end up on that side, right? So it just goes, it depends.
Yeah.
How close you are to the center, it moves less far. And the wider you are, the further it moves. So Pisces being on the edge moves a long way to the other side.
Yeah.
But my Mars being right near the center just moves about 3 degrees. Pop.
Yeah.
So it barely moves at all. Just moves from one side of Sagittarius and Capricorn just down to the other side in Capricorn. It barely moves at all.
Yeah.
So, but my sun moves a long, long way. So my sun in Libra is an inversion of my ego, and that has its own frequency too. That's the mirror version. So you're going to look at what's called the anticia of my sun's frequency, and then you will get a picture from that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I got it. The anticia of your sun,
Yes.
which let me see, when I look at the programming around that, or the frequencies of that, it's free. It says free. It's just reading free. Free. Whatever that means, I guess.
So if you were to balance the vibration and the frequency of my sun at birth and the frequency of my anticia sun, where's the optimal? Because that's point A and point B, and somewhere in between, and it might be the anticia itself might be the optimal, for example. Isn't necessarily so, but somewhere between will be, and mine's very wide.
Somewhere between. So I'm just letting it show itself to me. So I'm not letting my ego brain in the way. So just so I'm clear, I'm allowing it to show me the optimal between the two, if there be one.
And it could be that the anticia is the optimal.
Yeah.
That's a possibility too. But it can't really be outside that, because that's not where my frequency is.
I'm asking for the nature of the frequency itself instead of getting caught up in what you're saying. Because as soon as I start to try to understand your astrological languaging, my brain gets involved. So so vibrationally, it's the closest to the anticia, but it's a little more on the it's grounded and free. Grounded and free. So I'm not entirely certain what that means as far as
you don't need to be certain about what it means. All you need to tune into is the frequency of that.
Yeah. It's grounded and free. So I guess like if I were to be like reading the frequencies of you for all of that, it would be the nature of how you behave from the moment you were born. Your egos, and your planetary lineup would suggest that it was safety. The other aspect, the anticia, would be freedom, right? Could be the exact, it feels like the exact opposites, where safety is constricted and freedom is wide open. And so that when you ask the question about what the most optimal between the two, it was freedom with groundedness, which suggests a little bit of safety and a little more freedom. That's what the whole nature of that frequency indicated to me. Would that be accurate as far as what you can see on the chart? Or
I immediately got a picture of the picture of the Tao, where you have the white and the black, with the white in the middle of the white dot in the middle of the black, and the black dot in the middle of the white. So within the anticia, like the sun with a dot in the middle, it has to ground the freedom, and the safety has to have a bit of freedom within the safety.
You mean, so like you saw the yin yang? You're saying the yin yang? Okay.
Yeah. So within each is a little seed of the other.
Yeah.
The potential of the other is within caution and safety is the potential for freedom. Within freedom is the potential for safety.
Yeah.
Now, I know what I prefer.
What do you prefer?
Oh, I think it's probably the freedom with the potential for safety. Because within that is the chorus that you feel when you're free, you still feel that grounding of being safe anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it seems, so what I'm saying,
the most safe thing you can do is be free.
Yes, that's true. That's true. in when you're like mapping it out. And it's funny because I automatically judge myself and think, well, that seems logical. Did it seem logical for you? The frequency? Because
We're
I'm just
not,
reading
but
the
we're not
frequency.
working. I have not been working with logic at any point. I've just said, here's a point. What does it mean? And
Yeah.
here's the t-shirt. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose I take for granted like how natural it is for me to read it from that perspective, like just the energetic perspective. Because to me, I'm like, well, that seems logical. When my ego brain gets in the way in there, it's like, well, that seems totally logical. You just made that up, Wendy.
I'll
Right?
also
That
put it this way: that in any astrological text or book that you read, you will not find that for Pisces and Libra. It is specifically my chart and the frequency of my chart in this moment. And that's what you're able to bring to the table. I'm able to say, well, here are the questions, but when we go to the frequency, that's the ultimate answer, not in someone's book.
yeah. Yeah, I got you because I mean I suppose I do just take it for granted a little bit that it's so easy to read. The nature of the frequency is so easy to read.
Well, I
Okay,
take it for
so
granted that I can look at a chart, you know.
that's true, right? And I look at that and go, yeah. If I were on a spiral graph, I'd start adding more colors and more finding the pictures inside of there. It would be totally different.
Okay, so the question now is, what do you shift? Well, you shift to essentially to the antithesis of my ego, not the from where my ego is now.
Would you, yeah, would you shift to the Antisha, or would you just shift the programming out of the way to the most optimized experience?
Well, it would seem to me that the antithesis is the most optimized.
Hmm.
Would the energy suggest that that's the case?
Oh, I suppose we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Ideally.
There you are.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So would you choose to shift it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to shut all the programming that's there in between off so that
Well, we're going to
is
shift to the new programming.
Yeah.
It's a case of,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
this is exciting. This is new, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's funny that we're sharing it with everyone
Yeah.
as far as this goes, but yeah. In this space, it seems so logical, I guess you'd say. And from my perspective, usually I come from the more illogical perspective, where when I take out my logical brain,
There is nothing that we've done here that's particularly logical. It's been
yeah,
intuitive, I'd say.
which is logical for me, I guess. Anyway, so the choice is yours, and you're an absolute yes. So
Oh,
basically,
yeah.
we just shifted anyway on your mark.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, go ahead. It's done already. That's a matter of just
Excuse me.
you.
This is where I have my water. I'm not hurt. Oh, God.
So what we're suggesting, Jason, is what? That anyone with your chart is not stuck in the experience that you're in, because you can see, if you're not understanding your reality, you can lean into astrology to merely shed light on the ego aspect,
Yep.
so that you can get a clear indication of, oh, that makes sense why I'm experiencing this. It's not random. Right? It's
No.
not random. There's nothing about this reality that's random. It's all encoded. And that it's a matter of allowing yourself to know that the encodement is there, so
Yep.
that you can make necessary changes in order to have the experiences that you're after. It's far more simplistic in nature. And by default, I keep calling it logic, but that's, I mean, when you've been doing it for 11 years, it becomes logical because I think from that perspective,
Mhm.
unless I allow my ego to get in the way from a different view. However, this is just one aspect of how you can get a handle on the third dimensional nature of what you're experiencing in your physical world, and how you can shift from a multidimensional space, meaning outside of the 3D, utilizing the information outside of 3D, which is non-physical by nature,
Yep.
and change the physical with the non-physical indications. It is by far the simplest thing I've ever experienced when it comes to changing anything. It's never about what you're doing in your world with the 3D. It's never about someone else doing something. It's about you acknowledging what's true for you in your world, what's true for you in your experience, and being open and willing to see it from a different light, to see it from a perspective that, here, I'm going to pop this chart down from it, to see it from a space where you're not stuck ever. It may feel that way. It may appear that way to you.
Well,
But
especially
it's
with a chart like mine, which said safety and caution, then you're going to feel very sort of, oh, I better not do anything because.
yeah. Well, how
But
does
as
that
you can see,
translate in your
as
everyday?
you can see, we looked at the two aspects. If I get so hemmed in, then I feel like I've got to get out of here, and I'll
Yeah.
go to the other side of the planet. You know?
You literally move.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you literally move homes where you're
Yep.
feeling too, when we saw the safety piece of it, and then the other side was the movement, the travel. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's indicated if you were to know what that your ego was born into, you'd be able to look at your reality and make sense, a little more sense of it from
Yeah.
that space. And then on the same moment, know that all of it, aside from that 3D perspective, where you were born, when you were born, and that you are born,
Yeah.
you can change the programming and everything in that coding in order to have a different experience right now. And all we have, my friends, is right now. That's all we have. We have
Yep.
right now. That's it. We can't go backwards in time. We can view time, right? From our perspective, we can view backwards. We can even view forwards in multi pathways. All of the timelines we can view into.
More importantly, we can view outside of time and space.
Yeah. Well, and that
That's
is
the
the
key thing,
multi.
and the more important thing is we can view from outside of time and space, which is
Yeah.
when you take that dot from outside,
Yeah.
from inside, and put it outside the circle. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
The ego ceases to be something inside you; it ceases to be something disconnected from you entirely. You're not it.
Yeah.
You're not the
Well,
ego.
we're showing two different aspects, right? You're showing how we can look at, from an astrological perspective, the 3D, and I know in my reality, when I speak to it, it's the physicality of your life, so the 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're looking at the other multidimensional spaces, even like when you take the physicality of astrology, so the planets, you could still look outside of the planets using that same format, which is astrology. And I do it from a multidimensional space of going from 3D, looking outside of it into 4D, 5D, and beyond. And so both spaces, same views, different language. So really what we're offering to everyone some way to look at your reality in order to know that no matter how you slice it, you're going to be able to read it, and you're going to be
Yep.
able to know that there's something else, because the indicator, the resonator, the skin suit that you have is going to indicate to you whether you're in alignment because you're feeling neutral or above, joy, peace, right, what have you, excitement, or neutral below, which is anger, frustration, irritation at how the world is presenting itself to you. And that world is your world. It's no one else's world. For when it comes down to it, yes, it's everyone's world. But when you're coming down to you and your experience individually, it's your world because you're looking at it, you're experiencing it, you're the resonator. Your skin suit's the resonator that's indicating something else. So the invitation to everyone is to
Mm-hmm.
know thyself and you can't go wrong, meaning know what you're feeling,
Yeah.
acknowledge it. Listen, if you're a human who doesn't acknowledge his feelings very often, that is the first step. Acknowledge that you're having some type of feeling about something so that you can then identify it and move from there. Everything's available. It's all open and available. So I think, Jason, we're going to close out this moment. I wanted to ask you one thing because we're
Yeah.
already at the top of the hour.
Mm.
What is based on what we just did, what is your perception of what may change, what could change? Because as we've done this work a million times from Sunday together, but in a different way, what do you feel for you would have been where you felt restricted in this very moment, and what might change
It's
because of that
difficult to
shift,
say because we've never done anything exactly like this before.
right?
Um, but if you look at the language that we've used in terms of when we asked the ego to reveal itself, we looked at being closed in, and being free.
Right.
I think it's as extreme as that. That's a pretty wide difference. Now, for everybody's ego, you're not going to get that kind of swing. Mine's pretty extreme. I'm born right near the end of the zodiac, and I swing. It's like being near the eastern horizon. It's like then swinging all the way to the western horizon.
Right.
It's a big thing to go from being very cautious and locked in and being very careful to whatever I want to create, I can create it. Now, if you think about what that would mean for anybody watching, it's the potential from going from being a very cautious person to I create the universe. It's the difference between, as you know, I've got 2 first-class degrees and I've done, and I do all the work and so I've got the logic. My brain is probably more logical than yours.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a good or bad thing. I'm just saying that's the way I've worked throughout life. It's like, well, let's look at this and look at the material world, and this is what I can do. Yeah. Okay, then you go from here to here to here to here. It's not. When I was a kid, I used to look at train timetables. It takes 2 minutes to get from this station. It's because I'm on the spectrum, right? Oh, this is fascinating. How long does it take to get from the centre of Sydney down to the western suburbs? Right? That is about as logical and as materialistic as you can get. A train going from there to there, and the stops in between. Right. And so if I wanted to go there from there to 20 minutes, I arrive at this point. I did. That's how I got my degrees, and that's why I did well at them, is because it's very locked in and sort of staring at your feet. Where are we? What's the next step?
Right.
You look at what Katie Clark said, which is you just got to forget about reality and just decide what you want. The part of me that said, hang on a second. Whoa. But this is going on. That's going on. This is happening. Charlie Kirk died last week, and they're saying this, and they're saying that, and blah, 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 blah. Politics essay, do. You're locked into the material. When you want to create your own reality, you can't be thinking about
reality.
What somebody said 5 minutes ago and thinking, oh, geez, I've got to respond to that. You've got to just be thinking, well, what do I want?
Yeah.
I've never done it, certainly not in terms of not being well. But let me look at the circumstances around me. Now, I need to do this, this, and this. I'm always calculating. Right. I'm a very calculating person. Well, my ego is very calculating. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so to stop being calculating, I don't have to calculate?
See, the fact that you're even open to that, knowing you as well as I do, is like, oh, wow, that's a shift. That's a shift if I ever acknowledge one for you that I've ever seen, because normally you run on that calculation and then you shift yourself beyond that and back again, where I've never seen you consider that, even that part of the conversation. Wow, that's for me.
Because really my ego says this is where we are.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's ego is going to say something different, unless you're born at exactly the same time as me.
Yeah. And
to be fair, I'm born the same day as John Hamm, right? John Hamm might be very calculating. He's got, maybe the time he's born makes it sit differently in the chart, and his moon is different to mine, but it'll be very, very similar. And so he might be thinking, now, what's my next step? I would bet that on John Hamm, saying, I wonder what my next step in my acting career would be.
Yeah.
Right? That would be the type of thing that you might well do. Now, if you were to go into his ego, we don't know exactly where his chart is, but I could bring up John Hamm's chart, and it would be very similar to mine, and you might get different things come up.
Yeah. Well, maybe next week what we'll do is we'll pull, say, a celebrities chart, and we'll look at that. We'll see.
How it goes.
But I've seen the shift. So wild. I see the shift in you already. That change. I mean, we didn't go into the details of how the shift occurred, but I've been doing this long enough to do it we've been doing it long enough together that the move itself without talking about it. So what I'm seeing in you is that even openness to not calculating reality first before making a move. This will be interesting to see. We'll have to give it a look next week and see how it goes. But you don't even have to answer that question.
I'll be trading tomorrow morning. I'll know.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we're going to close out this episode with the invitation for everybody to if you look at your own ego and how it functions and how it holds you in place and how it drives the bus sometimes or all the time, and
Oh,
what it is that you really
before
want.
we go, just got to let it slip in because we talked about my teeth.
Yeah,
They realigned. My whole
they
jaw realigned.
did
So the
it.
back of my tooth, which I was biting down on, I'm not biting down on, and therefore it doesn't matter what I eat, everything's fine.
So what
So
we
we
did
talked about
last
a real. Remember, we did a shift. Well, my jaw shifted.
Wow. You had a actual physical response, like your jaw actually shifted into play after what we did last week.
2 weeks ago.
Two,
So we
sorry,
got
2 weeks
we
ago.
got 2 weeks doing that.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we shifted that. We'll have to look back and connect those dots together for people if they haven't seen the one 2 weeks prior. Yeah. Listen, the shifts are real. You and I both know it, Jason, and those who have worked with us also have had that experience, and I should say, it is the way that we've experienced this reality to work. Once you identify your third dimensional nature, you can then allow yourself to set that aside, access multidimensional aspects of your reality, shift by addressing the programming and changing the frequency of that programming so you move to a timeline where everything you want is available to you, or at least what you're after in the moment. So that's my invitation today. Pick something that you want. What do you want? And in Jason's case, it would be like, what do you want? Aside from how the world is being right now, what do you really want? I imagine I hear a lot of like, oh my gosh, I've never asked myself that question, or I can't imagine not looking at the outside world and deciding that for myself.
Yeah.
Because most people feel that it's, selfish, maybe even self-centered from that place because they're thinking only of self and nothing else. And that's not actually the case. The greatest amount of love you can give is to be it first. So we're going to close this Mirrors of Destiny out, which was that seeing how everything actually fits together in that way. And I look forward to seeing everyone who's with us today. Thank you guys for participating. Jason, thank you for being here as always. And I look forward to next week, the episode that we're going to reveal how you experience this transformation. And we're going to maybe open it up to other people as well. So anyone watching this, if you've watched all the way through, if you want to take a look at what your ego is doing, maybe, just maybe, if you drop it in the comments, we will look at it for you and put it up. So we'll respond from that space. Anyway, have a great rest of your week, everyone. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.
No, look, my hand's here. Good.
Hey, take care.